Now, we've come together here to learn about cancer treatments, but I have to say there is no such thing as a separation of cancer or any other degenerative disease. And it's really important that when we look at the whole program that we've put together, that it's not just cancer. You can use this program for pretty much everything. Every single degenerative disease can be approached this way and can be treated. And you all know, or many of you know my story, and I thought I'll share with you very short how we came to build this whole thing. And I don't know if this works now. Yes, it does. Got a remote this time. So we all start with pain, right? Suffering. We all start with some kind of loss. And for me, it was the same thing as everybody. When you have a loss, you have somebody dying of cancer, you realize how helpless we are. It puts that kick in our butt to get us moving. And this is what I found the most significant of all. When you look at all of your stories, you probably all have that motivational kick in your butt that comes from either losing a loved one, getting the diagnosis yourself, or having someone in the vicinity that you're helpless to help. In my case, it was a good friend that went to hospital and she started to be treated. And after the first chemotherapy, she was so sick that she almost passed away. After the second treatment, she passed away. And you stand there and you can't do anything, and you tell the doctor, I was actually kicked out of hospital. I wasn't allowed to stay there because I was complaining and I was objecting and I was like really fighting and battling, and then they kicked me out. So I wasn't even there when she passed away. And that's when my motivation started. And I think that's a really important factor that we all have to look at, because that gave me my motivation for life. And I'm grateful for that. And I have something to do. So think about that for yourself. There is a reason why you are all here, and be grateful for that reason, because it fills your life with passion, it fills your life with motivation, and it gives you something to do. True? Now, we all know that this is pretty much the image that we have, and I love that little photograph because it shows exactly how we feel with the diagnosis, or how patients feel as soon as they are diagnosed. There is that huge problem of feeling intimidated by the too many variables, too many choices, too many problems that we have, and not knowing where to go and which way to turn. And that made us in the beginning to do the documentary about cancer, and we started out with Cancer is Curable Now. I still hate the name. From the day it was published, I was really angry because, nobody read the subtitle because it was too small print. It's not cured with medicine or drugs, but with knowledge. But people just looked at the video, the top title, and then they said cancer is curable, and that was it. So we dropped that, and many of you know when you go out and you talk about alternative medicine, what kind of views do you get? Not scary, exactly. When people came and said, Marcus, what do you do? And I was like, I'm a movie producer. And I was like, a documentary producer, and I was really proud. And they all go like, oh yeah, what do you do? And I was like, documentary about alternative cancer treatments, and you can see how they reserved, pulled back, and one of those. Snake oil. And let's face it, we do have a serious problem with snake oil in that industry. We have a lot of problems with people selling the same amount of hype that conventional treatment do. And it's something that makes me quite angry, because it's not just a single incident. It's very common that people approach this subject as a means of sales. And the patient, in their desperation, and especially not knowing, are a victim. And they buy pretty much everything that people recommend. And there is a video on YouTube, every cancer can be cured in less than 30 days, with 1.9 million views. And you all know the doctor that proclaims that with sodium bicarbonate and alkaline diet. Does that do the trick? How many of you have not lost plenty of friends who were so alkaline that they started to bubble like soaps? I have a lot of people that do ketogenic diet, pure ketogenic diet, which is no glucose conversion but fat conversion. They change their whole dietary program. They have no glucose in their diet, and still their cancer keep growing. And they explode from tiny to huge, because cancers can adapt and can also convert anything to energy, even fat. So to sell that as a cure is certainly not correct. And I've been very adamant since I learned that. I tell you why. You know, when you start out on that journey, I was like everybody. I was racing from one cure to another. I was observing every doctor, and I believed everything every doctor told me. You know, they were doctors in white. You know, they had those holy shine. So I went up and believed. And then we made the movie, we wrote the book, we referred hundreds, thousands of patients to all of those doctors. And then I got feedback. Now, think about 10 years of feedback, it didn't work. 10 years of feedback of, I spent all my money, I have nothing left, and nothing worked. Kind of frustrating, isn't it? And it's scary. Now, how much is the doctor's fault and how much is the patient's fault is something that we need to discuss. And we will discuss that in great detail, because it's quite important to understand it's not just the doctor's fault if something doesn't work. But it depends on how I market and how I approach the subject. And this is where I'm now not only fighting the conventional subject, but also some of the alternative doctors. And believe me, it's put me into big trouble. Because a lot of those doctors, they want to be advertised and marketed and everything. And if they don't follow an ethical approach, I will not do it. And I warn everybody, and I will do that now even more openly than I did before, about their practices. There is several treatments out there which are hyped and they're sold, but when you travel around the world and you go to clinics like in Germany, who are usually 20 years ahead of time from everybody else, because they have no limitations, they have no limit in their treatment protocols. They can do all those treatments without being prosecuted. So for them to try out and then drop a treatment shows that there is significant issues that are not working well. And there is some treatments like dendritic cell therapy that are very, very much and well trialed in Germany since 12 years.
What's it called?
Huh?
I didn't hear the name.
Dendritic cell therapy. And they dropped them or changed their protocol significantly in order to have success. And we'll talk about that treatment later. In the same way, Rigvia, which is a virus. Now, the virus that they use at the moment, there is different ones. Measles virus, there is AIDS virus, there is flu virus, there is Rigvia virus, there is several. Polio virus, they use to create disease, and the virus then will eat up the cancer. They tried those treatments since 18 years. And all the clinics had the treatment, they tried it out. Significant first reactions of patients. The patient responds really well to the treatment, but then the body becomes immune against the virus. And then the body fights the virus, which is then resistant in the body and can't deal with cancer anymore. And what happens after a short time? Cancer explodes and your immune system is completely busy with dealing with the virus. So all of those clinics took up that treatment, they started to use it, they had beautiful results, everybody was highly excited, and then after 6 months, after 8 months, after a year, after 2 years, they all dropped it because their patients died with huge tumors, exploding tumors, and they couldn't stop the progression of that virus. So to think that we get a quick fix, that we get some kind of easy solution is really, really difficult. And if somebody advertises that, without long-term success, without, we expect the conventional medicine to have how long? 5-year survival rate, to be taken serious, and we say, they changed the 5-year survival rate to better their statistics. And then you see clinics who use a treatment since 8 months or 9 months and proclaim it a cure. You realize I'm passionate about that. I get really frustrated. In San Diego at the show, there were doctors who proclaimed something they have just started to use, maybe a year, as a super success. That's fraud. And that's cheating people of their money and their possibility to do an informed decision. And that's why I'm very adamant to fight and battle that. And if I put myself into even bigger trouble than the conventional medicine, I'm happy to do so. When you think about Dr. Google, when you think about all the different approaches that we have to find the truth, is it a very congruent approach? Is it a very clear approach that we have? Do you all find it extremely confusing and overwhelming?
There's a lot of information out there.
It's huge amounts of information. And the biggest problem that we have is that it's not just information that is all in the same direction, it's all contradictory. A lot of it is. And you will hear different fractions. Let's say the mind people explain that it's all about the mind. And it's all about psychology, and it's all about getting rid of stress. And is that true? For some people it is, because their cancers are stress related. And then we have others who have viral loads. For them, everything to do with virus and fever therapy and ozone therapy would be perfect. But that won't work for somebody who is completely stressed out. So there is too many reasons, and the problem is that we don't look at the causes, we look at the final problem. We look at cancer, and that's a tumor, and we want to get rid of the tumor, but we don't look at where it comes from and why we have it. And this is where the problem is. If you look at many of those clinics that offer treatments today, what do they offer? Or when you interview them, what do they do?
Tumor reduction.
Tumor reduction. And they come along with a list of very beautiful, we use this treatment, we offer this treatment, we have this treatment. And it's all those different things that they advertise and market. How many doctors have you actually noticed to say, we find the cause? None, right? Okay, for me that was like my big wake-up call. I went to an interview with Dr. Rao. Does anybody know it here? Know him? I walked in and I said, in my interview, I sat down with him and I started like usual talking about all the different things that he offers for cancer patients. And he said, Marcus, can we just go back and start again? You asked the wrong questions. And I was like, okay, what should I ask? And he said, well, how about you ask me, how do you find out what's wrong with that patient? And would you believe, after almost 5 years of following cures and searching for the cures, I stood there and I was like, let me think about that question first. It was so out of range for me. I was so following, what I had learned, all the different cures, that I was confused. So I stood there and said, okay, how do you find out what's wrong with the patient? And he said, I do some tests. And that's, we went for lunch, and then I said, can we start the whole interview again? It took me really long, and I went back home, and I came back to the clinic 3 weeks later, and then I did a 2-week or 3-week shadowing, and I learned with Dr. Rao how he approaches the disease. And I have to say, he's my #1 mentor. Hello? He's my #1 mentor in regards to that big wake-up. Finding what's wrong is the #1 priority, and then doing the treatments according to what the main problems are. So it was kind of fascinating, and I would like to show you the main actor that we talk about in this video. This is a white blood cell. This is your immune cell. And it still plays the music. But you can see this is a bacterium, and this is a white blood cell chasing and eating the bacterium. And now, if you look, it starts again. Now, once it's digested, the bacterium will be loaded in the back. Once it's digested, fragments of it will be loaded in the back. Now, this cell, this immune cell, this white blood cell, has a storage, has a memory what to chase. This is the basis. This is actually one of the principles of your vaccination immunity. That's why when we get sick as children and we have a flu or we have a disease or we have any kind of infection or a virus or pathogen, fungus, mold, whatever, then your immune system learns how to deal with that and learns it and remembers it based on a DNA extract that is stored in your white blood cells, and they then will always know how to chase it. But, and that's the most important thing, what happens if your immune system is cranky, dead tired, can't move, is completely exhausted, sleeping and compressed? Can they do that job? No matter how well trained they are, no matter how much equipment they have to say this is the enemy, I'm sorry, I'm not pointing at you, they can't do the job. All right. Now, this is one of my favorite images, and I want you to visualize that for the rest of your life. Your immune system are soldiers, and they defend you. They do every day the work to clean up, to kill out old cells, to clean up all dead cells, to kill off all pathogens, all virus, all fungus, all mold. Your body produces cancer cells every single day. Not just now and then, every single day, thousands. And they need to be taken care of. Now, if your immune soldiers look like this little fellow, they're starved, they're hungry, which means they're deficient. They're highly overwhelmed by 1,000 warfares. You know, inflammation in your gut, in your joints, in your skin, dermatological inflammations, like everywhere inflammation. Arterial inflammation, then you have brain inflammation, you have inflammation everywhere. That's all warfare. That's all little fronts that they need to battle. And then they're starved, deficient, plus they are toxic. They live in an environment. Now think about, they live in an environment which is all lacking air, lacking oxygen. Oh, try, hold your breath for half an hour, or we turn off the air conditioning, we don't get air. The big problem that we have is when those soldiers are not having the right environment, they cannot work. And this is what we need to do. Now look at this, deficient, inflamed, toxic, acidic. Can you see it over here? Sorry.
I got a view on
Oh, you got a view on this, okay. Infected, hormonal imbalances, messengers of life, DNA impairments, stressed and depressed. And then you give them a big gun, like dendritic cell therapy, like Rigvia, like all of those treatments, they won't be able to handle that. And this is why what we do is we step completely away in the first phase of treatments from treating the tumor and repairing the whole system, repairing everything within the patient to make it work. And once we have that achieved, then we can add cancer treatments on top, and I can guarantee they start working. But that's the predominant thing. Now, many of you call me crazy, but I had a book written that I didn't like, so I threw 5,000 into the dump. We had 8,000 DVDs of The Old Cancer is Curable Now, but we have doctors in there which are frauds. So I've taken them out, re-edited the movie, and threw 8,000 DVDs into the dump. I just, you know, maybe I'm nuts. But I can't stand behind something that I discover that is not right. And if you look at some of those presenters that we have, they sell for whatever possible means to earn money. And maybe their limited view doesn't allow them to see what they do, but they damage our industry. Is that true? It's a big problem. If you say I'm an alternative doctor, you are immediately put into the category with sales hype doctors. And that's why it's damaging. You know, like I had interviews with about 12 doctors who said to me, Marcus, I don't want to be associated with you because the movie that you made. Dr. Mercola was one of them. He did not want to be in the movie as long as I had 4 presenters in my movie that he totally disagreed with. He said, if I'm in the same movie, I'm going to be associated with them. This is something that really rattled my cage. I went to 4 doctors that said, Marcus, I love what you do. I know you come from the right place, but I don't want to be in your movie. Now, that should make us think. A lot of people sell, you know, biomats or Halen or everything. Is Halen good? For some people, yes. Biomats for some people, yes. But you can get the same solution for $600 instead of $2,500. It's just we need to stay integer in regards to our patients and in regards to what we do. And if we do that over the long run, we will win. And that's my endeavor. You know, we all talk about passion. I'm an architect. I'm not a doctor. And I can tell you I'm very happy that I'm not, because I would like passion, patience, maybe compassion, I don't know. But, you know, for the individual. And I'm more like kick in the butt instead of, you know, nurturing and caring. But I think we all have a role to play, and I believe my role is to bring back integrity to the system. And when you see what we do and what we've put together and how we put it together, it's not about selling something new. It's not about selling a new form of cure or treatment. It's actually just bringing clarity back to what alternative medicine should be. We have dream healers around the world, really dream people. You know, if you look at some of the acupuncturists, what they can do just with acupuncture alone, is that amazing? With people that have knowledge about herbs and nutrients, that is overwhelming. You know, nutrigenomics, all the phytonutrients, all of those things, there is incredible knowledge. But what is it right now? Fragmented. It's everywhere. It's all over the show. And to bring that all together, that's my main purpose. That's my main passion. And to build a system that allows us to bring all that congruently together and make it into a system that we can use with patients, that we can use with friends and family, and that is easy accessible to all. And brings clarity to that whole thing. So, that's it. Easy, you got it all in one solution. I tell you what, I've been presenting in Baden-Baden to a group of 15 oncologists. And guess what? I was nervous as hell, because I thought they're going to pull, you know, everything over me, and they asked me 1,000 questions which I have no answer to. So I made a little mind map. And everybody knows from our website my mind maps, the colorful ones, you know, the beautiful rainbow hippie ones. My children call them hippie mind maps. And I made one of those, and it became bigger and bigger and bigger and more and more and more. And then I showed it to my family, and they said, Daddy, that's not a professional presentation. And I was like, it helps me. And then we changed the software to make it a little bit more structured and more congruent. I started to do it again. But this time, Sabrina helped me to add a lot of things. Then I asked some doctors to help me. And in the end, it became a nightmare. Now, if we open up all of those chapters, this mind map in this width, and you can see it's not to read. So double the width, you can start reading it, and it goes down for 12 meters. Talk about clarity and presentation ease. I stood there and I was like, oh my God. So I was working with those doctors and started to go through, and I expected them to pull me apart. They were taking notes, they were writing down, they were putting their hands nicely up, and they were conventional oncologists. And they asked a lot of questions, and after a while I gained confidence, you know, like I lost my shakes. And then we went through, and all of them agreed to partake in a trial and to join into the program, and they're working now through the program. And I tell you what, it's amazing. For them, it's more challenging than for many naturopaths or holistic doctors or people that have, because they have to restructure their thinking completely. They've never learned anything about diet, about supplements, about nutritional values, about DNA. You know, like they learn about those things, but in a completely different manner. If you think about nutrigenomics, pharmacogenomics, they know better than nutrigenomics. Pharmacogenomic means through which pathway is any kind of medicine taken out of your body, detoxified out of your body. So if you have, let's say, any kind of pill or chemotherapy, they can tell you exactly which pathway this toxin will be eliminated out of your body. Detox phase 1, detox phase 2, all the methylation processes, they know that. And they can find out of your DNA whether your body can detoxify or not. But do they do it? They still give you all the medication without testing that, but a lot of doctors know about it. So we'll cover that in great detail. But for me, it was kind of fascinating to see how this whole thing has now evolved. And at the moment where we stopped to use the word cure, at the moment where we dumped all the hype, we opened up to a conventional group of people that are now looking at our program, that are working with us, and that's what we need. See, we don't want to be quacks, strange people that are regarded, you know, like by the rest of the industry as marketing salespeople. We want to slowly infiltrate that knowledge into mainstream wisdom. True? Okay, that's another step. I'll show you afterwards. This mind map was not manageable. Nobody could deal with this mind map in a productive way. So what we did is we developed an app. We just received last night the latest update. They're still not quite there, but probably within 2 weeks, everything is finished. We learned now in the app that a lot of the things that in the mind map make sense, in the app aren't quite as easy to handle. It's because it's not visible in one piece anymore. So we are restructuring some of the things, and I have now 3 doctors working with the app to tell me what's impractical and what's practical in the common use. And probably within 2 weeks, we can start giving it out to our coaches and to our health practitioners. And then let's say we run it as a half-year trial to sort, and I want as much feedback as possible during that time to really see what we can fine-tune. We will invite some specialists that then have knowledge to, you know, go through individual chapters, and I talk about that. Let's just go back one. These are all individual chapters. So if we have someone who is really knowledgeable about toxicity, they don't need to do anything else. They just go through toxicity and try to fine-tune that area or deficiencies. And then we can clarify that area, make it all congruent, and then we add also little videos and little interviews, every snippet on the way, so that it becomes not only an educational or using tool, but also an educational tool that you can use in the clinics. Okay, so the app I'll show you a little bit later, and this is what we've made of it. Now if you go back and you look at this, that's not something you can just put all into an app and expect everybody to know. It's huge amounts of information, and we have some coaches who started with us in the beginning, and if you look at the protocol now and what's been added, in just 1 year it's about double. It's huge, it's growing, and with every expert that joins the program, do we get more? Do we get refined information? Do we get better information? Yes. Now, is that the purpose that we want to achieve? Not stay stagnant and sell one treatment. We want to grow. And by having all of those experts joining into the program, we're going to create a completely easy to use protocol that can be adjusted and brought to the latest stage at any given moment. And you know what's the nice thing? When you have the app and you turn it on and you log in, it automatically logs into the server and it tells you new update. these and these areas have been changed, these and these areas have been added, and this way we don't need to do anything, we don't need to tell you, you have to download your latest update. It's always up to date and it has all the newest information in it. So what we have is, do we have one here? Deborah, do we have a book here? I just wanted to, you can hand that around. Our new, I just printed them out, brand new, because we always update and always change. And the book comes in regular updates, let's say every half year or every year. And this is our latest version. We printed it smaller to make it lighter to ship. And you can hand that around. This is, by the way, yours. Paula is the very first one, the very old one. So, yeah, you can hand it around and pass it on, but it contains more or less the whole protocol in a more detail than it is in the app. Because the app, if we would fill that all into the app as well, it would be unmanageable. So it requires a little bit of study, which we offer for health coaches, for health practitioners, and for clinics. And it's a very simple principle. You log in, and those of you who know, it has at the side all the different subjects. We're now to 29 areas. And as you go through, you have at the bottom here assignment, let's say laboratory test, which is probably the most challenging of all. And then you go through, and then you click on that. You get your assignment. You have 14 days for some of them to fill out. You go through the answers, you fill them all out, and then you send in your assignments. And we have now 4 people correcting, which is really great. In the beginning, Sabrina was alone, and she was dying. She said, if you sell one more, I'm going to shoot you. So we have now naturopath that joined the program. Paula is taking on. She's my top leading student for the mental part, so she's taking on the mental corrections for me while I travel. And we're growing in that concern. And that's why we limit our uptake of coaches, because it's, you know, I was talking to someone from the Quantum University. Everybody familiar with Quantum University? They offer a protocol where you go through and you mark, assignments are automatically marked online without a teacher. And then you either pass or not, or you pass with 60 marks or 70 marks, but nobody makes sure that you really understood what you learned. Nobody really makes clear that you got it. Now we try to make that different, and Paula is our strict one. So if you send in your assignments about any kind of mental work, and she's going to send it back, she'll fail you. Not quite, but she'll challenge you, and it's important because we want to really have a thorough understanding at the end, and I really believe that that will make it or break it. We are in a very early stage. And I admit that it's not like a 10-year-old university that we have. It's very fresh. We're now in the 2nd year, and we're just starting the 3rd year. And it's all still growing dramatically, and we're still improving in many areas. And if there is some feedback problems, sorry, that's usually my problem, my fault. But we are getting, let's say, to a stage where we can say it becomes an educational process which is personal and still extremely comprehensive. And that's very important to me. Okay, last year we managed to get certification, which means all our coaches get health insurance, not health insurance, get public liability insurance, work indemnity insurance. And if you look, what was the price in Canada? Under $500 Canadian. In Australia, it's $330. In America, it's something like $400 per annum for full comprehensive 20 million public liability, product liability 10 million, and professional indemnity, which is really great. See, when you rent a room like this to do a workshop, if you go and do a seminar, whatever you do, you need public liability insurance. So to have that, if you work with clients, you need that. And this is why to have that was for us a huge step. We're working at the moment with plenty more different institutions so that it's accredited for points for doctors when they attend, or for naturopath. We're working on Certificate 4, and we're working on a university approval for the course as well. So there's many things to come, and probably within the next 2 years we will be there. 30 MDs, doctors and health professionals, are now in the program. Very awakened souls already. Doctors that are already on the alternative path. We have 16 conventional oncologists in the program, working through the program, and 450 coaches that are there. And paradigm shift. Have you noticed that right now there is a huge rebellion around the world? I found that to be true in many areas. It's not just that we have, the individuals awakening. It's all around the world. There is, on one side, the stupidity grows beyond belief. They destroy the world in any possible means. But there is always equal to that a huge awakening. And we've been invited now, I just told Terry, I got the email this morning, to Houston, Texas, to a church, Noel Olstein. Can you imagine the reach that we're going to get through that? We have another church that approached us from San Diego to teach their group leaders, to teach the health leaders in their community to take care of their health at an early stage. Now that's a dream come true. And I tell you one thing which is important to me. This is not only my job. I don't want to be doing that all my life and all the time. And I ask all our coaches to step up to the task. We have thousands of opportunities and possibilities to speak to communities. And I want you to do that all around the world, wherever you have the possibility. It's a very lucrative business. It's a very good thing to do. Plus, you're changing a paradigm. So to do that and to get into interviews and to speak to people and step up. I tell you what, my first talk was a nightmare. I froze. And then the lady up front, the first lady sitting there, and she started to challenge me with questions, and I was trembling, and I was like, I couldn't speak to a camera. You wouldn't believe it. I was scared to death in front of public speaking. Then I put a little camera beside my monitor on my desk, and I started to explain everything to my camera. I was going like, and I have to tell you, and it really looked probably very ridiculous in my office, but I spoke with my camera as if it was a friend. And I learned that for half a year, and then I did my first video recordings. Then when I had my first workshop, I went to a course, and then they said, look into everybody's eyes and look around, look from person to person. So I started to do that. Tell you what, it was scary as hell. But you do that for a little while and it becomes second nature, it becomes normal. You don't need to worry about that. So if you're scared to speak publicly, well, jump the bridge. You need to do something, and you need to start doing that. And the practice will make you better. So don't worry about it. The first workshops that we did in Florida 2 years ago, wow. They were very different. If I look at my videos now, I go like, I should have said that. Shouldn't have said that either. So it's something that we need to all learn, and it's a really simple thing. And I would like, before we go into the practice, throw out a little bit of an idea, because a lot of people ask me, how can we make this work? If I want to be a coach, if I want to be a practitioner, how does the whole system work? And I would like to start first here with our coaches. Now there is many different ways to earn very good money. And I tell you what, I have 2 coaches now. They make more money than I do, which is really great because they teach me. They come from a different background. They come from a marketing background. One lady, a young lady, she started out to give free talks, free 1-hour talks in the community hall, $5 to rent the hall in her city. And then she started to give those talks, and she made those different areas. Truly heal your home, truly heal your relationship, truly heal your mind, your body, your mouth, your gut, and from stress. And she just created those workshops, made a nice little slideshow for it, and she started out with 12 people for the first, and that was all her friends. She wanted to get warmed up. And then the second week, when she was through with all 7, towards the end of the 7th workshop, she had 40 people in the room. Because it started to go out, people speak about it. Then she started the same protocol again and wrote a little ad in the newspaper and wrote out that everybody's welcome to come to that workshop. And she did the same thing, and she started with 50 people at the first, and then she ended up with about 80 to 100 people for the last. And now she charges. That was just free introduction to make her known. Out of every single presentation that she did, she signed up clients for individual coaching, she signed up clients for her group workshops, and she signed up people for her individual coaching program. Is that cool? If you think about finances being troublesome or being challenging or that you don't earn money, that's not an issue if you approach it properly. And like we do that in the protocol. Paula has already seen parts of it. We've added now the EQ Academy, Emotional Intelligence Academy, to the protocol. And everybody who is part of the program signs up for that, and then you can work through. And it shows you how to set up your business, how to make a business plan, how to create your environment, your work environment, how to create a super income. Because does it help if you have knowledge and then you can't tell them to everybody? It doesn't help. It's a really important step, because otherwise all that knowledge is there and you can't do anything. So that's just some ideas. Truly Heal Clinics I won't discuss, because we've done that. We've signed up clinics to become Truly Heal Clinics. And then the doctors didn't have time to go through the program. They didn't have time to go through the protocol. They still did what they did before and just wanted to be advertised to our database. We have now 80,000 people in the database. I'm not advertising before it's gone through the protocol. And this is something I'm very strict about. So we stop taking on clinics. They sign up as practitioner. They go through the protocol. Once I see, and you know that. You know, everybody who knows, who works with doctors, when they fill in their forms and when they fill in everything, you know whether they have an understanding or not. Once they passed, I'm more than happy to send every client there, but I won't do that before they have that overview or clarity. And then we have here the idea of pit stops. Now that's one thing that just came up, and I'm actually really excited. We have in America a very, very wealthy gentleman. He lost his wife and his daughter to cancer. And he's very, very rich. And he has the dream of bringing into every city like New York, Chicago, everywhere, one Truly Heal pit stop. And we're working on that on Tuesday in Vancouver. He couldn't come here, but a pit stop would be a local coach or 2 or 3 local coaches who provide education to the community for free. It's a charitable organization, so they collect money and they hire 2 or 3 coaches that give a second independent opinion to patients. They offer tests, scans, and protocols to help them to find the right doctor, the right environment. Then they give guidance and referrals to all those doctors. They have training and education room for cooking and, you know, like all the things that we need to learn. Do we agree that when you are first told, no more sugar, I have nothing to eat anymore? That's how it feels, right? And it's like, all of a sudden your world stops. But if you get together with people who have been on that journey for a while, do they have recipes? Do they have tasty solutions? Super. So again, also, which cancer is responsive to glucose and which one is not? You know, I can go on a ketogenic diet and still my cancer grows if I have another problem that causes cancer and it's not food related. So again, we need to fine-tune there a lot more than we've done so far. You know, generalization doesn't work with health because we have too many factors that can cause and trigger the disease. Training education rooms, they can offer hypothermia, PMF, and oxygen. We don't call it hypothermia, we call it deep tissue detoxification, so no legal implications. We do oxygen, which is no problem at all. in combination with our sonar treatment or deep tissue detoxification, and we offer PMF. By the way, over here are all our PMF devices. You are welcome every day to go here and recharge. Do one in the morning, one in the evening, today and tomorrow, about 10 to 15 minute treatments. Okay, in the dark. So you have the possibility to recharge your cells. I'm going to show you what those devices do. Okay, so hypothermia, and then if the facility allows, we have detox bath, massage, acupuncture, you know, all the surrounding treatments, physiotherapists that can get your spine back into alignment, so many things. Now, these are my dreams. And I've dreamed about that in every city. Think about, we have a Truly Heal Information Center or Truly Heal Pit Stop in every city. Now, the great thing is, in Holland, Sweden, and Denmark, we have a fitness studio chain with 65 fitness studios just signed up to do that. So they will they have not that kind of legal problems that we have here. They can just do that without any problems. They sign up now all their health coaches to our program to go through and then offer those treatments in their pit stop, in their fitness studios, which is a dream come true. You can send and refer every client to have those treatments just in your neighborhood. Now, if we manage to get that all through America, and Jerry and me, we had the dream already 2 years ago, and he came up with the name, so I have full credit to Jerry. The pit stop, the Truly Heals pit stop, would be like a mega solution because it allows coaches to work from an environment and they would have employment. I have already 3 open jobs if you want to work somewhere in the Caribbean, and 1 in South America and 1 in Spain. I have to look up the emails. They have clinic, they have everything, but they want already a finished coach, a health practitioner that would take up the job so that they don't have to go through the protocol themselves, and we're working on that. So there is plenty of possibilities coming up with pit stops as well.